So we're fishing with James Sampsel today from Humble Heron Fly Fishing, and we're fishing the Middle Rogue and about getting close to mid-February, and we're definitely in a low water phase. So we're going to be talking a lot about low water fishing today, low water tactics, and we're going through some of our choices and thinking about sink tips and stuff now, and just wanted to get some feedback from you about that and what you've been seeing and how you've been approaching this kind of low water stretch that we're in now, and just kind of that approach to to winter steelhead this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the big question is, am I fishing too deep, not deep enough, fly profile, all that stuff. And that all is determined by water conditions and flow and what's going on. But for right now, the river being so low and clear, we're trying to get down because these fish are, seemingly a little bit spooky.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of like summer conditions, right? In a way, like what we hit in the fall.
Right.
But we've got a different fish, a winter steelhead that's wired a little bit differently,
right,
and moving in the river differently, and but we're still trying to approach it. And a lot of times with winter steelhead, we're thinking about inside bends and these traveling lanes, right? But now they're kind of forced to sit down a bit. So I was thinking about that on the way up here and how there's similarities but differences. And when you pulled out the heavy stuff, and we were talking a little bit about that, it was like, yeah, we're approaching it that way, but this is heavier stuff than we would fish at that time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because these fish, even though they're traveling and they're looking to stage where they might spawn come March, they're past a major obstruction. And the major obstruction here on the Rogue is Rainy Falls. Mm-hmm. And fish typically jet through that section of water in the wild and scenic corridor fairly quickly. And once they get over that, then they start to slow down. So we're fishing in water like this run right here, where it's pretty chunky, it's still moving. So honestly, I'm looking at these fish as almost like a summer run fish that's holding. Yes. It's just a little bit different. And because the conditions, the water is lower, they're at flows that we can target all those same spots that we traditionally like. And we're not necessarily looking to fish the inside and the slow seams or whatever. And of course, they're hanging out there. They're hanging out throughout the whole system, but we get to fish a lot of the classic stuff as well. Yeah. So we're getting down deep, doing 12 and a half feet or 10 feet of T14, either weighted fly or non-weighted fly, depending on the run. And that seems to be working. Also integrated Skagit heads to really slow down that presentation. It's all about the slow juiciness. Dude,
we love those things, man. They're so awesome.
They are.
The intermediate, half intermediate, the eye flights, the Rio eye flights, the airflow fist lines. I mean, they really just work so well this time of year.
Game changer, man. I don't know how many times I've been outfished by someone who's fishing that. And like they'll pick up fish behind me because they're fishing a slower presentation.
Yeah, they just crawl across, and you fish them, they just crawl right across. It's really,
a nice
really
tool
a fun thing to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Well, tool.
While we're on that topic, we might as well just chat about flies and fly size and choice of flies. Now, I think that when we get into periods like this, of these low flows and stuff, you're trying to get that fly done, but that doesn't necessarily mean a big fly or a really heavy fly.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it, and I kind of gravitate towards maybe more natural colors. I still like to stay in that dark spectrum, with fish this far upriver. But what are your thoughts on that? Are you playing around with fly size?
I am playing around with fly size too. When it's a little bit more turbid, I go a bigger size.
Sure.
But right now, like this morning, I twisted up some smaller ones just because I know it's low and clear. Because you don't necessarily want to spook them. But you can't go wrong with dark colors like black and blue and all that stuff, classic ones. But honestly, my favorite color is red. I like to throw red in the wintertime. And low clear conditions, red.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, it turns them on. You would think that it would spook them, but I love me some red.
Oh man, I'm always excited to hear a different take on steelhead. It's what makes me so happy and love this game so much.
Yeah. Because we'll never figure it out, right?
Yeah.
There's no way, and everybody's gonna have a different thought or feel on something.
Yeah, so true.
I love the variables. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's go check it out.
Cool. So yeah, no matter river conditions, you always want to start short. So I'm starting short right here, because you never know, the fish of your life can be right at your feet. So before I even step into this main run, I'm just fishing around the structure where I'm going to really start wading, and I just want to make sure and do my homework that nothing's sitting around right here. There's a lot of chunky water in here, and a lot of places for a fish to be holding, and I've seen it happen in many places in here, so I'm just being thorough. I'm also really trying to concentrate on very slow, linear presentations. It's okay to have some belly, but in this run in particular, I really want to slow it down because it's a little bit heavier than what we might be seeing and what you might fish for the winter. But based on conditions, I think these fish are going to hold in this chunky stuff. So because the water is swift, I'm really going to concentrate on slowing down my presentation. And typically in the winter, I don't like to fish a super long line either, because I feel like you lose control. But in this spot, I just know there's structure out there. I think they're going to be hanging out there because they're not going to be super in tight, I don't believe. I'm also kind of high sticking as I fish through here, keeping that pivot point off the end of my rod tip a little further out, just because the current is so swift next to me compared to what's out there. If I were to drop my rod tip instantly, I'd get a big belly in my line. I'm really trying to get that line to slow down. So as I'm high sticking, trying to slow down my fly and line speed, I'm also very aware that my rod tip is pointed up, so if a fish does grab, I'm gonna drop my rod tip. You gotta be conscious of that. If your rod is high and a fish grabs, there's gonna be friction there, and that might be enough of a warning sign for a fish to wanna drop it. We don't get too many opportunities in the winter time, so we're gonna be very meticulous about our process. Well, good effort. On to the next. Nobody home.
This is a pretty classic run here, and a run that I would certainly look for, you know, approaching winter steelheading in these types of conditions. Can't quite tell from here, but there's a lot of structure, a lot of bedrock underneath this run that's breaking it up a bit. So you're gonna have lots of places for fish to pull in. We are right on top of a creek mouth here, so this is a spot where a fish would hang out and wait for this creek to come up until he can smell and tell that the water's up, and he can kind of squirt up in there. So this is a pretty darn good setup, something that we're looking for. I would pass a lot of water to find a setup like this. So I'm always going to start off short. I'm always going to fish the eye. Fish can definitely hang out, you know, right in that eye. I don't see them as often as some, but that's a good spot for a fish to just sit and wait. We're swinging flies for steelhead. We talk a lot about, do you hold a loop? Do you carry a loop in your running line? I think for winter steelheading, I think you really want to question carrying a loop. I think for summer fish that are moving quickly, they can turn on that fly and race back to their lie. Carrying a loop can be a good thing to do, but summer fish are typically pretty stuck where they are and aren't going to move much, and I think you want a direct connection. I think you want a direct connection to that fish, so I would encourage you not to carry a loop on winter fish. I'm going to try something a little different here. I'm going to try and leave some slack in my drift and let it kind of drift down without tension. And I'm going to pull the tension in right as it gets close to that those rocks down there. So I'm still drifting, no tension. Now I'm going to engage the fly right here. And sometimes you can feel it go boom when it engages. That's how I'm going to get the most depth out of that. Those are all little things you want to consider when you're fishing winter fish and you're trying to get more depth. Another critical area when you're winter steelhead fishing is the hang down. Especially if you know there haven't been many boats through there or anyone fishing through there in the day. Happy winter steelhead can just be sitting right along the bank drop off and just sitting there. Yeah, there he is. I feel like a big fish, but that was a great little grab. Nice little sniff first, and then it just came back and smashed it. Little fish, I think, but still fun nonetheless. Yeehaw, James!
That's what I'm talking about.
Just a little guy, but lots of fun.
Yeah, sure.
Right where you said they'd be.
Yeah. They can't resist it. Nice job. Good hook set. A little scrapper.
Right. We're heading your way.
Sure.
Oh, just beautiful.
Nice healthy fish. Look at that.
Yeehaw. There's a little guy there.
Nice. Oh, pound it. Right on. Good job, brother.
Yeah, buddy.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
So again, I'm going to continue with slow, deep presentations again, just because the water temps are so cold. And I'm fishing a line that was given to me and made for me by Steve Gottschall. It's a fully sinking Scandinavian line, which is interesting, and I like fishing it because the Scandi line is a little bit longer and it holds its loop longer and more energy, and I can make longer casts with it if I need to. It also has a nice clean turnover. But what's really nice about this line is that the entire line sinks, so it's not just the last 15 feet or so that actually sinks, but the whole thing sinks. And what that's allowing me to do is to really slow down my presentation quite a bit. And it's pretty deep on the inside, and at these water levels it's up because it's winter time from their summer levels, but at the bottom here there's a couple key rocks that in the summer aren't in play, but right now are totally in play. And I know the fish hang out next to them, so I'm going to make sure that I fish all of my casts all the way through. Swing all the way to the hang down to where my fly will stop. When I step down the river, when I'm fishing a run, I really want to tread lightly. And I see a lot of folks thrashing the water and stepping hard or slamming their staffs into the rocks. And I don't know if you've ever been in a pool and someone's yelling in there or dropping stuff at the bottom of the pool. You can hear everything, and water amplifies sound. So I really like to teach and emphasize kind of fishing like a blue heron. If you've ever watched how slow they walk through the water and they take their time because they're hunting. And we're out here, we're hunting for steelhead. So when you don't get many opportunities, everything counts. And that includes how loud you are on the water.
So the first chunk of water we really looked closely at today had a lot of nice bedrock substrate in it, a lot of chunky stuff, a lot of dips and things and places for fish to pull in, winter fish to hide in these low clear conditions. Now we're going to look at a bit more classic style swing run here, where it's really going to slow down and deepen up, and that's a really, really nice place to look for winter fish too. They can really hang back in those pools. A lot of times you'll find them sitting in those pools. This is a perfect spot to fish a multi-density sinking head. I've got the Rio I-Flight intermediate, 2/3 intermediate, and the back third is floating. I've got 10 feet of T11 on here, I believe. I've got 10 feet of T11 on here, and again, not a big fly, but a moderate-sized fly, and that's really going to help me sink in this slower water. I really want my presentation down. I really want that fly to really crawl across that pool, so that's why I'm choosing a more faster sinking head, kind of with that intermediate sink with the sinking tip. It's really going to pull down in there. This type of run, I'm really going to try to fish directly out from me, so I'm going to be using a double spay cast. I really want that straight across angle, so that when I get into my prime position here as I'm following this line, I'm really getting that slowest presentation that I can get. Start with the rod tip high, and I'll just slowly drop my rod tip following that fly, following the fly until I'm leading it coming out. I'm dropping that rod tip to let that fly sink through there. Nice and slow. Everything's slow. I'm thinking slow, slow, slow when I'm fishing this water for winter fish. So what we're doing here, what we're fishing, is we've got kind of a slow sloping gravel shoulder, and we've got a pretty fast seam, pretty fast riffle coming in, and right in the middle is the water that we want to fish. So I'm trying to get that angle on it so I can keep that fly in there as long as possible. So you can see I'm casting over my target, pulling the fly back, dropping the fly in the zone. And this is right where I want to be, right here. So I'm just trying to keep it there as long as I can. But sometimes all you get for your efforts is water well fished. And that's what we got in this run. But I feel like I went through it well, and there was a fish in there that wanted to play. I think he would have seen my fly and perhaps taken a swipe at it. Those are some water types that we really want to look for when we're fishing these low clear conditions, as we're going to be doing a fair amount this winter, is what it's looking like. So thanks for spending some time with us on the Rogue River and looking at that. I hope we go a little ways toward helping you feel a little more confident when you're out there fishing low and clear water, these types of conditions for winter steelheading. Thanks a lot for watching. We appreciate it.